The streets of New York once whispered a dangerous promise: power, respect, and fear. In the shadows of tenements, where immigrant families struggled to survive, a new order was taking shape. One that would operate beyond the reach of the law, built on loyalty, sealed in blood, and a code of silence that defied death itself. They called it La Cosa Nostra, meaning our thing. And over the next century, it would grow into a criminal empire so vast, so powerful, that even senators and city mayors would bow to it. But in the end, no kingdom lasts forever. The American mafia was never just a collection of gangsters. It was a parallel society, a shadow government that controlled industries, unions, politics, and even culture. From the dark alleys of Little Italy to the neon glow of Las Vegas, it spread like a network of veins pumping money, blood, and fear into every corner of American life. Theirs was a world of iron rules. Speak to the law, and you died. Cross the wronged man, and you disappeared. Betray your family, and they would make sure an example is made out of you. Yet behind the brutality was a complex system of power, one that could rival legitimate governments in both organization and discipline. The story begins in Sicily, where the original mafia emerged as protectors of the powerless against corrupt landowners and politicians. However, protection soon gave way to control, and control gave way to profit, and fear became the mafia's most valuable currency. When millions of Italians crossed the Atlantic in the late 19th century, they brought their customs and their criminal traditions. In cities like New York, Boston, and Chicago, discrimination and poverty left many Italian immigrants with few options. The mafia offered something the government could not: protection, opportunity, and a chance to climb out of the gutter, even if it meant climbing over the bodies of those in the way. For the mafia, the turning point came in 1920, when Prohibition outlawed alcohol across the United States. To the average citizen, it was a moral law. To the mafia, it was an open vault. Smuggling liquor, bribing police, and running speakeasies became their bread and butter. In Chicago, Al Capone ruled like a warlord. He didn't just run the city's illegal alcohol, he owned the police, the politicians, and the press. His name inspired fear and fascination in equal measure. Meanwhile, in New York, a young mobster named Lucky Luciano saw beyond the streets. He envisioned an organized network of families that would share power instead of tearing each other apart. His moment came during the Castellamarese War, a brutal conflict between rival gangs. Luciano outmaneuvered the enemies, eliminated the old guard, and created the Commission, a council of bosses that would oversee the entire American mafia, settling disputes and dividing territory like kings carving up a continent. From that moment on, New York was ruled not by one boss, but by five, the five families. The Gambinos were the muscle, ruthless and shrewd, able to crush enemies with the same ease they made million-dollar deals. The Genoveses were the quiet kings, manipulating unions, business, and politicians while staying far from the spotlight. The Luccheses thrived in the world of industry, turning labor racketeering into an art form. The Bonannos, fiercely loyal but plagued by betrayals, fought constantly to maintain their standing. And the Colombos, volatile and ambitious, were as likely to war with each other as they were to fight outsiders. The five families together formed a criminal network that touched every dock, every truck route, every construction site, and every gambling hall in the city. Soon enough, the mafia's influence spread beyond New York. In Las Vegas, mob-backed investors built glittering casinos with money stolen from union pension funds. What happened on the casino floor was just a performance. The real business was in the back rooms, where skimming operations funneled millions straight to the bosses back east. In Hollywood, they gained control over labor unions and used that leverage to extort movie studios. If a production didn't pay, suddenly their crew members did not show up, and shooting would stop. On the docks, truck drivers, and construction sites, they controlled who worked and who didn't. If you wanted a job, you paid tribute. If you didn't, you got nothing or worse. You see, power in the mafia was never handed down gently. it was seized, often violently. For instance, when Paul Castellano, boss of the Gambino family, began making moves that his underboss, John Gotti, did not like, Gotti decided to act. In December 1985, Castellano was shot dead outside Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan, in full view of Christmas shoppers. The hit was brazen, loud, and symbolic. Gotti wasn't just taking over. He was sending a message that no one, not even the boss, was untouchable. Hits like this weren't just about removing enemies. They were theater, designed to terrify rivals and keep the streets in line. Every assassination sent ripples through the underworld, forcing alliances to shift and enemies to vanish overnight. For decades, the mafia had bribed and intimidated its way out of trouble. However, in the 1970s, the federal government developed a weapon designed specifically to destroy the mafia. It was called the RICO Act, which means that for the first time, law enforcement could prosecute not just individuals, but entire organizations. The FBI began planting bugs in social clubs, wiretaping payphones, and flipping insiders. And one by one, the mafia's walls of secrecy began to crumble. The first major blow came when Joe Villacci, a soldier in the Genovese family, broke omerta and testified before Congress in 1963. His testimony exposed the structure of the mafia to the entire world. By the 1980s, the Bureau had learned to be patient. They didn't want to arrest low-level mobsters. Instead, they listened, watched, and waited, all until they had enough to take down the bosses themselves. Gotti, who had seemed untouchable, was finally brought down in 1992 when his underboss, Sammy the Bull Gravano, turned informant. Gravano's testimony helped convict Gotti on multiple counts of murder and racketeering, ending the reign of the so-called Teflon Don. And one by one, FBI kept bringing down crime bosses. The mafia's downfall wasn't a single dramatic collapse. It was a slow erosion. Each trial, each informant, each wiretap chipped away at the empire. The old guard either died in prison, was murdered, or faded into obscurity. The new generation lacked the same influence over unions, politics, and police that their predecessors had enjoyed. By the turn of the millennium, the five families still existed, but they were fractured, cautious, and far from the dominant force they had once been. The FBI's decades-long campaign had worked. The mafia was no longer America's shadow government. It's worth noting that what kept the mafia strong for so long wasn't just money. It was identity. To be made was to be part of something bigger than yourself. The initiation ritual with its pricked finger and burning saints card symbolized that you were reborn into the family. From that moment on, you belonged to them, and they to you. The mafia's story is one of ambition and inevitability. From the desperate streets of Little Italy to the gleaming casinos of Las Vegas, they built an empire no one thought could fall. But the very things that made them powerful, their secrecy, their structure, their loyalty, also made them vulnerable. Once law enforcement learned how to turn those things against them, the end was inevitable. Today, the mafia exists only as a shadow of its former self. The families are still there, but they move quietly, avoiding the attention that once defined them. The streets no longer tremble at their name. But in all fairness, their legend still casts a long shadow. And so the rise and fall of the American mafia is more than a story about crime. It's a story about power, how it's taken, how it's kept, and how it's lost. It's about the thin line between loyalty and betrayal, and the high cost of crossing it. For decades, the mafia ruled America's underworld. But in the end, even they learned the oldest truth in history. No empire lasts forever. If you like more stories about infamous mob bosses, check out the videos in our channel. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell.